Hey YouTubers, Mike B here. We're going to be doing a pretty cool video today. Over the years I've been on YouTube, which isn't very many, but it's still enough to have talked to, a bunch of different people. A lot of people ask me, what is the best shit hit the fan helmet that's still affordable and doesn't cost, $1,000 or whatever. And I was kind of thinking about it, and that's one of the reasons I actually started doing ballistic tests on helmets and such. To kind of show myself and the rest of you guys like what these helmets actually stand up against. And out of all the helmets that I've tested, I've actually just narrowed it down to 5 that are pretty affordable and provided some substantial protection. So the first 3 are going to be steel helmets, because that's one of the most often asked questions is what kind of steel helmet would be the best for shit at the fan, because a lot of people can't afford Kevlar, and it's nothing against them. Like, there was a time where I couldn't either. So steel is actually a fairly viable option. I mean, obviously it's not going to save your life, from a 50 caliber round point blank, but, we're not expecting that. This is for the kind of ricochets, debris flying around, maybe pistol rounds at close distance and far distance, who knows. So anyways, I'll cut the talking and we'll get to our kind of number 5 choice. I don't really want to make this like a top 5 list, because these first three are pretty equal and the second 2 are pretty equal. But for our 5th choice, or one of our choices, you got the Romanian M73 or M7380 helmet. And it's a steel helmet. Okay, and it was designed and kind of implemented in 1973 and is actually still issued to quite a few reserve units in Romania. And I think that's because it's actually fairly effective. And I think why this one's so effective is that it actually lies in its design, right? Where it's got this big, frontal slope, kind of like the Dutch and Romanian M39 helmets that had that slope, except, this one doesn't have the skirt on the back, which I think they found was kind of unnecessary. But they still retain this slope. So that was kind of interesting when I actually did the ballistic test on this. The M1 carbine round, this was actually the first steel helmet that I shot that deflected it. I don't think if it would have been a more rounded helmet that it would have actually deflected it, but because of the shape and the way you're supposed to wear it, the M1 carbine round impacted. You can go check out the other video. It's way back in my old videos. But it just kind of hit it and deflected off. And I thought that was pretty cool. The rest of the pistol rounds did the same thing. Of course, rifle rounds, and I think the Tokarev only went through one side, which was pretty cool. That was the best performing one out of the steel helmets that I had done up until that point. So the Tokarev would go through and probably, we'll just say kill you, but your buddy would be safe if they were behind you or something. But this is still an affordable helmet. I sell these in my shop. Maybe by the time you're watching this video a few years from now, I'll be out of them. But I mean, as of right now, I sell these, and they're, they can be had on eBay and stuff, and they're about $50, usually 50 to 100, depending on who's selling them and where you're getting them from. I sell them for around $50. So these next 2 helmets are about the same price as well. But that's kind of why I would say that this would be an okay shit hit the fan, throw this in your bug out bag helmet. They're still being used by a very notable military today, and yeah, I like it. It's a comfortable helmet and it looks goofy, but I don't really think you're gonna be worried about your fashion contest when you're out in the heat of shit hit the fan. So we'll move on to our next helmet now. So for this one, if you haven't seen the ballistic test that I performed on it, it might surprise you. It's not a German helmet if you don't know what this is. It's a Bulgarian Model 36A. You can tell it's the Model A because it's got the rolled rim. It's the earliest model. And they were originally manufactured in Germany, but Bulgaria started manufacturing them, and then they did the Model B and C. But anyways, this isn't the history video. When I ballistically tested this, it stopped pretty much all of the handgun rounds, except for, of course, the 7.62 Tokarev, which only went through one side, if I do recall correctly. So these, like the Romanian M7380, this one's in World War II configuration. This will still work, the shell itself. It's just, the liners may vary. But this is actually a pretty viable helmet. It did fairly well. The metal is pretty strong. It bends where it's supposed to. It didn't crack. Rifle rounds went through, but we were only at 12 yards, so that's not a totally accurate test on my part. But yeah, this would be a decent option, I would think, for kind of a bug-out bag helmet. It's affordable. They're pretty abundant. They're getting more hard to find, and they're going to be about $50, which isn't that bad. The World War II ones like this, the more collectible ones will be a lot more, but I mean, you don't need one of those. You can have one with the updated liner and the new paint, because you'll probably end up painting it yourself or putting a cover or something on it. But these were even issued up to a few years ago to Bulgarian reserve units. So this had a pretty impressive service life, and you know, a lot of countries use stuff because it worked, and not just because they had to, because they did have another design. The Model 72, or some say the 51, but whatever, it's controversial. Not going to get into that. Not what the point of the video is. Anyway, so they had another helmet design, and they still issued this one up until recently. So that should tell you something about like the ballistic protection that it actually offers. So, and the design, you know, it's pretty good. I mean, the Romanian one's got its own little flair, and this one obviously was designed off of the German Model 35 helmet. And it's got its own little tweak. It's got a little kind of comb right there, the ridge, as everybody knows. Got some big rivets to hold the liner in, got the big vent lugs right there. But it really resembles the German M35. And so you've got, you know, decent protection around the neck and the ears. I mean, it's a pretty decent helmet, and I was very pleasantly surprised when I actually took one of these out, and it performed as well as it did against handgun rounds. So, yeah, this is, you know, again, these are about equal. This one and the next one and the Romanian one are about equal as far as the ballistic value of the steel helmet. I think it's the design and the quality of steel, and they're all about the same price range, so this isn't like, you know, this is a ranking thing. So, yeah, we'll move on to the next helmet now. This should make a lot of you happy. We've got the Soviet SSH-40. Now, I was very against going out and shooting one of these, but since there's a lot of them still out there, they're getting harder to find, of course, just like every other surplus item, but there's still quite a few of these out there. I did ballistically test this. If you check out all these videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it also performed surprisingly well against handgun rounds. The Tokarev obviously went through one side. I don't remember if it went through both. But, yeah, against 9mm, 45, and the hell else did we use? We said 9 and 45 for handgun rounds, and then the Tokarev. But it still did pretty well, which would indicate that, you know, at long distance, it could perhaps do well against a little bit larger caliber, like the M1 carbine or something. So, yeah, this is these three steel helmets that have just been kind of shown are about the same. They work in different ways, obviously, in the steel quality, etc., etc. There's factors, but as far as just bare bones, like what would be good and affordable to throw in your bug out bag, this would be a good option as well. These are still in use all around the world, as you know. Most Soviet stuff is, but again, for a reason, it's better than nothing. And if you're going for, you know, something that'll actually provide a little bit of protection instead of just a peace of mind thing, this would be a viable option. So, yeah, I mean, these, I don't know if I already mentioned it, but I mean, like in this segment, but these are about, you know, $50, $50 to $60, same as the other two, which is why I kind of thought that it was interesting that they all performed the same relatively in the ballistic tests. They're all about the same in availability. I mean, you got to dig a little bit. They're not out there for $10 a piece anymore, and, you know, people aren't trying to give them away, but you can still get them. So, yeah, you got the SSH-40. We've got the Bulgarian M36A. I haven't tested the Model B and C of the Bulgarian one. I forgot to mention that, so that's why I didn't put those on there. So I don't know if they're the same, because they feel thinner, but it might just be the illusion from the rolled rim. So these are all helmets that I've tested, and the specific models that I've tested. So again, if you're, you know, thinking about, oh, well, the 40 works, why not the 68? I haven't tested that ballistically, so I can't really confirm, you know, and make it a point in the video to kind of include it if I don't know for a fact that it actually performs well. So yeah, all right. So now we're going to move on to our more modern composite helmets, but there's two models in specific that I really kind of want to go over, and we'll get to those right now. All right, the first composite helmet we're going to talk about is the Polish WZ-2000. This has been replaced, I think, once or twice since then. So these are starting to become surplused out. I was selling a small batch of these a while back, and out of those I had one that was kind of beat up, so I decided to ballistically test it and kind of see for myself, you know, as well as other people, what it was capable of, and it performed very well. It stopped all the pistol calibers, including the 7.62 Tokarev, and the M1 carbine round barely penetrated the one side, so it might have been like a non-fatal shot. And it's just like some other helmets that I've tested, where I would literally wear this myself. I would wear one of these myself in a situation like that. And what's cool about this one is, like, it's got a pretty deep flare to it. Like, other helmets are similar, but the Polish ones seem to have, like, this deep flare that really gets down and protects the ears and the side of the neck, side of the head. And, you know, it's actually not that thick. The Kevlar itself is not that thick compared to like an ACH or something. So, you know, it's pretty cool. The liner systems, you know, I mean, this isn't really about that. It's actually about the ballistic protection itself. Yes, it is comfortable with the liner system, but I'm sure you can pop it out and put some pads in there and, you know, make it more modern. And the only thing that kind of sucks about these is that nobody really in the U.S. has these. I had them for a while, and I think because of the fact that nobody had them, that's why they didn't sell very fast. But I'm planning on in the future getting some of these to sell because I believe in them. And I think it would add just, you know, more affordable protection. I was selling these for about $100 or a little over $100. I don't know. They're not cheap for me to buy, so they're about twice, a little bit over twice of the steel helmet cost. But you get a little bit more protection, obviously, so you get what you pay for. It's still not a $300 or $400, you know, modern Kevlar helmet from some weird company. Not dissing them, but it's like, you know, there's so many options now. It's become kind of unaffordable, more or less, because the protection is so good. So this video is kind of like showing you what's affordable and still provides really good protection. So I totally recommend this one for a bug out bag, the Polish WZ2000. The Polish makes some pretty good stuff, and this is no exception. So that's all I really have to say about that. I've been saying a lot because I just kind of looking at it myself. I love the look of this thing, and I was really impressed by it when we took it out to the range. I also made a video on it, so you can check that out. And yeah, I think we'll move on to our final little selection. This one and the next one are equal in my opinion. But the other one's a little bit easier to find in the US. That should be a little hint. So move on to that one now. Okay, the top little choice I have in here in the video, it's not really the top ranked one between this and the Polish WZ2000. It's just equal and a lot easier to attain in the United States. You got the Pasget. Pretty much any version of this, the Pasget, the lightweight helmet, or the ACH, used or new, I would totally... This is mine for my little bug out bag. I don't have a bug out bag, but it's like for, you know, just paranoia situations. This is the one I have, so obviously I've got the lightweight helmet system in it, but this is just a Pasget shell. And the reason I would totally recommend this, and I have one for myself, is if you watch the video that we made, my buddy Andy and I went out and took a Pasget from like the late 1980s. I don't remember the exact year. Anyway, so this thing, you know, there's like, oh, well, if you let rigid Kevlar armor sit too long, even that starts deteriorating and blah, 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 blah. And so we put that to the test. I said, well, worst case, you know, I didn't pay a lot for the helmet. It was a size small. I don't have that tiny of a head. So it's like, okay, let's shoot it. We did, and it took a multi-hit area about this big from a 9mm. We dumped a couple mags into it, and not one penetration. We did that with the WZ2000 as well, and it performed about the same. But again, these are easier to find in the U.S. They're going to be about $100 to $150 for a Pasget. This one was obviously unissued, and I worked on it and put the padding system in it because I didn't like the old school like M1 style nylon suspension system. But anyways, as far as ballistic protection is concerned, this and the WZ2000 are my two like recommendations that I've physically tested before and can vouch for. Again, this one's just a little bit more affordable, and that's kind of why it's in the quote-unquote top spot. But, I mean, your mileage may vary. Hopefully I can get some more Polish helmets because they're a little bit cheaper than the Pasget. And, you know, for bigger sizes, you know, you can get small sizes of everything for fairly cheap. But I'm talking like big boy sizes. These are going to run you between $1 and $150. So, all right, now that I've reiterated that twice, so you can make sure that I wasn't just, you heard me correctly. Those are the 5 choices of helmets out of all the helmets that I've tested that I would recommend for a decent bug out bag option. Again, these aren't going to protect you from, like, you can't just go charging at somebody and they, you know, shoot you in the head with a 50 cal and it's going to take it. It's not what helmets are designed for. They're designed for, you know, being clumsy, like falling. There's a lot of, like, obstacles in an area like that if you're running through the woods, whatnot. In an urban environment especially, there's tons of obstacles. So it protects you against, like, blows from hitting your head on stuff. And, you know, pistol rounds, I would say I would rate these for point blank at pistol range, if you're, like, in an urban environment or whatever. Because obviously we did that and it worked. So, I mean, you're going to have one hell of a headache and you're probably going to be really dizzy and whatever, but you'll still be alive. Hopefully you got some buddies with you. But, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a while since I've made some videos. Kind of lost the lost the drive to make videos this summer. Been busy with a bunch of other stuff. My business is kind of expanding, which is cool. And but whatever, it's fine. I figured it. I love helmets. You guys love helmets, and hopefully this will help you out making a decision if you're going to do that. So I'll leave you with that. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.